Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on May 17th, 2021 at approximately 6:15 a.m. PST. Well, I'm thinking of this, and the reality is people have to start turning things around. I mean, technically, they've already started. But we go to the basics, which really boils down to this. Every single denizen on this planet is of equal value. You're all starting from exactly the same place. You're starting from wherever you are right this moment and moving forward from here. Doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. The reality is the past is already written. You cannot go back and change it. Okay, now I was asked the other day, I'm just going to get sidetracked here for half a second. I was asked the other day about the idea of alternate realities, alternate planets where everything is identical except one small little change. Okay, now, with that in mind, is it possible? The answer is yes. There is nothing you can think of, in my opinion, that is impossible. However, the one that we really have to focus on is the one that we're in here. The old issue, the old concept of if only I knew then what I know now, we could have avoided a lot of complications. But that is not the case. We didn't know then what we know now. Rest assured, things would have gone a whole lot different for a whole lot of people. I mean, we can look at it from the real negative side, and if they go, well, if a criminal knew where the police were at the time, they wouldn't have gotten caught. Okay, of course, in all fairness, we go the other side. If the police knew where the criminal was to start with, the criminal never would have gotten anywhere near what they were doing. Now, that brings us right back around full circle to the issue of the laws that are put out there. It is necessary for laws to be put in place. You don't have to agree with all of them. Okay, but because society requires laws, just like your household requires laws, requires rules. But the reality is, if those laws do not apply to everybody, including the rule makers, okay, then what ends up happening, not only the rule makers, but the rule enforcers, if the laws do not apply to everybody equally, there will be problems because people will run into issues about, well, why does that person get away with it and I don't? Like, what's so special about them, or what is so wrong about me? In either event, we have to realize that laws, and therefore politicians, are a necessary part of society. The thing that frustrates me is a lot of people sit there and go, I don't like this law, I don't like that law. But when you ask them what options they see, they cannot come up with any sort of functional answer, at least not on the whole. Now, one of the things that I came up with a long time ago, and I am not a lawmaker, aside from in my own home, and do understand where it comes to making laws in your own home, you must abide by the laws in the community in which you are. So if you've got a home inside a community and the community says this is the law, you cannot say it's okay, I realize that's the law here. Like, for instance, if a community says there is no drinking at all allowed in this community, okay, then you cannot turn around in your home and go, it's okay, in my house you're allowed to drink. Okay, however, on the flip side of that, if the law says it's okay to drink, you can in your own home go, no, it's not. In my house you cannot drink. Because you're not interfering with the law, you're not contravening the law of the land in which you are. So it's very critical that you realize that the laws that are out there are necessary, but they have to apply to everybody, lawmakers and law enforcers at the same time. Same as any of the tax laws. Okay, they have to apply to everybody in an equal fashion. Not, oh, because you've got X number of dollars, you don't have to pay taxes anymore. Okay, now, I understand with the banks, there's a neat little setup. They will say if you've got a minimum of X number of dollars, you don't have to pay service charges. But as near as I understand it, the reason for that is because when you've got X number of dollars in the bank can take that money, utilize it to invest, and thereby make up the service charges that they're no longer charging you. Okay, you're contributing to their band, to their profit, therefore you don't have to pay for the service. That makes total sense where you've got a minimum amount that's got to be in there. Okay, but to tell somebody that, oh, because you're a member of you're a member of this group, of this societal group, you don't have to do such and such. The biggest problem I run into is this: when we take a look at the religious at the mainstream religions, really, where they are told, from my understanding, they're told because it's a church, you don't have to pay taxes. Now, I understand that the churches are a necessary place, okay, but they are a necessary place for the brotherhood. In other words, for you to gather with people of like mind. Okay, but, and I haven't looked into the reality behind it. I'm going to have to, just for my own curiosity. The reality from my standpoint is this: it's still land, regardless of what you're using it for. And I can understand the idea of taxes. Okay, because, well, let's face it, I don't know about you, but I like having, paved roads. I like having electricity running to my house. I like having the water. I like having indoor plumbing. These are all things that are paid for out of taxes, as far as I understand it. Okay, but the reality is that there are complications with it, and I don't have all the numbers, so I certainly don't have all the answers. What I do know is that from your standpoint, it's very necessary to make sure that when you're putting laws together, okay, that they do apply to everybody. Okay, where it comes to this whole idea of unification. When I'm talking unity here, I mean everybody working together to work and to make this world a better place. Now, I've been told I'm asking way too much, that mankind cannot do that. They will not cooperate. They will not work with each other. Well, I'm here to tell you, I've seen situations where, for instance, a fire breaks out in a building. The people that are the rescuers and the whether we're talking people that are paid in that capacity or whether we're talking just strangers, nobody seems to bang on the door of a burning building and go and say, "Excuse me, what's your pocket? What's the balance in your bank account?" Or, "Who are you voting for? I gotta know if I'm going to help you. I gotta know." They just don't do this. Okay, and if they're behind closed doors, they don't even go, "Excuse me, but what color is your skin?" Who are you sleeping with? They don't ask these things. These things in a critical issue are ignored. What I don't understand is why they're not ignored the rest of the time. Aside from, people are taught that by putting other people down, now whether they're taught by example and by their own parents or their own guardians, or whether they're taught by society at large, I cannot speak to. I personally believe that is a combination. But if in a natural disaster, if in an accident, nobody seems to worry about these sorts of things, why, ask yourself this: why do I insist on looking at them now? Okay, and when we start looking at this idea of minority groups, something that, from my understanding, is, and I might be misguided, so check your own numbers, but my understanding is when we start looking at minority groups of people and minority nationalities, Caucasians are the global minority, from my understanding. Now, I got nothing against anybody, okay? From my standpoint, who you are, regardless of who you are, you're of equal value. If you treat me decently, and if you treat the people around me decently, then I will treat you the same way. Because karmic law dictates very clearly, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Okay, now I'm certainly not going to tell people, that clothing is, that clothing is something that you have to worry about. I mean, certainly wear it. I'm not what I would call a fashion statement. I look at it going, if I'm wearing clothing, I'm ahead of the game. Okay. But there is no question the clothing that you wear will help you with what you wear, how you carry yourself, will help you feel better about you. And frankly, if you feel better about you, you'll feel better about other people. Needless to say, in case you hadn't noticed from my own outlook, I'm not overly impressed with a lot of things. And this is why I said yesterday that if we are going to put this world back on track, putting it back the way it was is absolutely the wrong move. Okay, there is so much that has been wrong, that has been completely off balance, that it is imperative we approach this from a different angle. Okay, it is absolutely imperative that we start looking at our neighbor. As a matter of fact, real cute idea, get to know who your neighbor is, even if it's only a question of waving at them and smiling. You don't have to become close friends. You don't have to sit down for coffee with them every time you see them. Okay, but a simple hello or a simple good morning can go a long way to making your community a lot happier. Okay, but it's up to you to do it. Now, I can tell you this is necessary. I can tell you these are tools that I personally use. There are people I don't talk to, absolutely. And there are people I have definitely done things wrong with. Okay. And I have got to, there's a whole list of things that I've got that I am in the process of trying to, and when I say trying, it's because I haven't been able to contact the people. But I have a whole list of things that I intend to take responsibility for, that I intend to lay ownership to, that I know I have done wrong. In some of the cases, I've done them wrong in my eyes. And in many cases, when I've approached the person I felt that I had wronged, they haven't remembered it at all. Okay. But the fact that it weighs on me here says, for me, I've got to deal with these things. Okay. I'm sure there are things that you've done that you know in your heart were done ineffectively, were done in the wrong fashion, were done in a way that you're not happy with. Now, while we're starting to get society turned back around, while we're trying to come out of this thing that people are now calling the post-COVID world, it's imperative that we start taking responsibility for our own actions. Okay, the idea is real simple. And it's simply put, an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. Now, here's the funny part about it. There's a lot of people on social assistance, okay, that I've talked to personally. Now, this is not necessarily what I find for the most part, the greater majority of people are decent people and don't take advantage of things. But there is that select few, and it's those people that have to take a look at their own life. Okay, now, therefore, with that said, what I'm about to say, if it does not apply to you, do not take it on. Okay, but there are many people on social assistance, on medical welfare and what have you, or medical SSI, depending on what country you're in, it may be a different name. Okay, but there are people taking advantage of it. Now, when you take a look at the idea of an honest day's pay for an honest day's work, if you happen to be on social assistance, okay, and you're you're legitimately on it, okay, that doesn't stop you from doing things like volunteering for certain things to help out, or even getting onto a support line for the telephone. If you're living at home and you're on and you've got some sort of assistance where you can't hold down what we call a regular job, okay, which really boils down to going to work for somebody else and they pay you, then in my opinion it would be really appreciated if you would get on to some of the call lines that require people to sit there, that require help. Okay, you can do it from your own home in most cases. Okay, and it is extremely beneficial. I was talking to somebody the other day about a post I've seen on Facebook that said, you know, they really didn't want any more people around them to die because they didn't have somebody to talk to. The support lines, the crisis lines, you can, as far as I understand it, you can work from home. Okay, look into it. See if you can work from home, if you can lend an ear to somebody in trouble. Because I can't tell you the number of people that I've talked to that have been on the verge of suicide, where simply talking to them helped them get over that side of it. The world right now is inundated with negative news. Somebody asked a question on the internet the other day, okay, on one of the groups, and they asked, where do sociopaths come from? Well, in my opinion, now, I am not a professional psychologist. I don't have all the answers. But in my opinion, sociopath, a person who doesn't care about anybody, if you're inundating the world with negative information, you're going, this person's stealing from that, this person's robbing this person, these people got killed because of a terrorist bombing. If all you're really focusing on is the negative world, why would you start to care? Okay, I mean, most people manage to do it, but there is that select few that go, I can't cope with it anymore. Years ago, there was a term called going postal, meaning you end up, what it referred to was you got so fed up with things and you didn't know how to turn that you lashed out. Okay, and innocent people that have nothing to do with the problem get lashed out at. Okay, it happens way too often when stress comes to a head. Even in my case, if my stress level gets too high, what ends up happening is I will bite at whoever is around. It's not because I want to, it's because I just don't have necessarily the control I'd like to have. Okay, and the reality is there is not that many people around that have enough dominant control. Some people have more. Okay, that didn't work well. This is one of those reasons why I gotta get this desk sorted out. But some people have more self-control than others do. Most people resort to, when they get frustrated, they usually resort to vocal. But there are those that resort to physical. Okay, and that doesn't work well in anybody's favor. So from that standpoint, we have to start promoting, start propagating, start passing along the positive things in life. Okay, i.e., who got married? What animal is doing something really, really cute, or what person is doing something that took a lot of effort and they've succeeded at, but it's a positive thing. Okay, and absolutely, for those of you that have done something positive, okay, and this is something I've got to start doing. If you're doing something that you're enjoying and it feels good to you, absolutely, take a picture of it and post it. So much more enjoyable to watch what people are doing, in my opinion anyway, to watch what people are doing that is of a positive nature, that is having a beneficial impact, even if that beneficial impact is simply something you're doing for you. Well, that didn't work well. There. Like with these little guys. Okay, I've shown you these ones before. Okay, it's time that I start painting these things, like start making time to paint them. But these are just little figures. They're just a hobby. Okay, but there are many people out there that do things. I'm not going to get it, but like, for instance, I turned around and one of the things I did in my spare time was I went and crocheted a blanket. Okay. And it currently is sitting on my bed. I've given a number of them to other people. Okay. It's nothing extravagant. It's nothing, overly fancy. It's handmade. Okay. And in my opinion, that is so much better than store-bought most of the time. Although, in all fairness, I wouldn't want to try and carve something like this or mold it. You take a look at the artwork and the detail on these things, and it is phenomenal. But when was the last time, if you think about it, when you go walking down the street, or if you go for a walk in the park, when was the last time you just simply, walking by somebody, smiled at them or waved at them? Just on a positive side. I mean total strangers. I don't mean somebody that you see all the time. Okay. From my standpoint, it's pretty cut and dried. If you pay attention to the people around you, not only will they feel better, but ironically enough, or intriguingly enough, you'll feel better at the same time. Now, I've long held that one of the best things and one of the most undervalued gifts that you can give anybody on the planet is a smile. Okay, it costs nothing to produce. Well, it costs a few calories, but oh well. Okay, but if you can look at somebody and smile, first and foremost, it doesn't cost you a plug nickel. It will not take away from anything in your day. Okay, other than possibly stress. The people that get it never complain that they smiled at you, or very seldom. I run into one that absolutely complained. Okay, but that's one in several 100,000 people I've dealt with. Okay, and I don't mean clients. I mean just people I've seen on the streets. Okay, but if you smile at somebody, you'll feel better because that smile releases certain chemicals in your brain, and I forget exactly which ones. I think it's dopamine, but I could be wrong. I'm not a doctor, but I do know that simple smile does release certain chemicals in your brain that help you feel better. The person receiving the smile gets the benefit of having somebody smile at them, and thus they feel a little better. Net result, sooner or later, they start smiling at other people as well. Now, there's a pandemic I would love to see spread. Okay, a pandemic where everybody walking down the street smiles at their friend, at their neighbors. Yeah, you'll have bad days. I'm not talking about smiling 24/7. Okay, I'm talking about the issue of smiling periodically and on a more frequent basis than frowning at people. Very, very necessary. Because the more positive stuff we put out there, the more we focus on the similarities to people. Okay, the other thing about the smile is this. When somebody smiles at you and you return that gift, I have yet to hear of anybody complain that somebody smiled back at them when they started to smile in the first place. It's a gift that is inexpensive, it's easy, it's cheap to make, very inexpensive, very beneficial, it helps you, it helps them, and if they return it to you, nobody complains. Okay, at least I don't think anybody complains. I can't see them complaining, but what the heck. Okay, when you're looking at posting things, okay, absolutely, whether it's on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, whatever other programs are out there, because Lord knows there's a lot of them. Consider this ratio, at least a 50-50 shot. For every post you put out of something negative going on, strive to put out a post of something positive going on. If we do that, if it's only a 50-50 spot, you'll find people start spreading, that people start looking at the world in a better fashion. Now, there are mistakes being made, absolutely. People go, well, why don't people get a handle on these things earlier? I'll tell you the reason why is because people for centuries have been taught that fear is the way to go. Okay, that self-indulgence, that immediate gratification is the way to go. And that is why people are so caught up in the greed, in the jealousy side. I want it now. It's not happening fast enough. I want it right now. And they waste so much time wanting something really quick, they forget to enjoy the journey. Okay. There's a term that goes, stop and smell the roses. Okay. Now, when I put my list together, I keep telling, I've mentioned this multiple times. Put only 3 things on your list. I'll tell you, I don't do 3 and do things well. Okay, I don't do 3. I started off with 2 dozen. Okay, and I've already gone through, what have I done? I only put this list together about an hour ago. I've already got 4 things sorted out, 4 or 5. I think 5 things now done off that list. And I will continue racking them off today. Okay. But these are just, all you do is target the things you're not content with, things that are not working well for you, that you've got to get accomplished to get out of the way. That's what you're putting a list together for. Okay. And then 15-minute to half-hour job. That way you can get them racked off and feel like you've gotten something accomplished. Okay. Now, hopefully we get a thumbs up out of you. Now, give us a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to our channel because we'd like to get this message out to everybody on the planet, whether they have the internet or not. Word of mouth advertising, word of mouth spreading is the fastest, most effective method of spreading information. Now, I see people spread information and it always goes viral on things that have gone wrong, that have gone absolutely horrendous. I would love to see my channel go viral. Okay, get literally millions of people paying attention. And don't get me wrong, I am not the best person on the planet. There are definitely people that are better than I am. Okay, I like the way it was put one day by one chap I was talking to, because like I told him, I said, the last thing in the world I want is to be put on a pedestal. And the guy looks at me and he goes, you cannot stop people from putting you on a pedestal. You can't stop people from looking up to you. Okay, but as long as you don't take on that outlook, as long as you don't put yourself on the pedestal and go, I'm better than other people, you're fine. Carry on. So this is what I'm having to work through. Because the reality is, the way society is and the amount of negative cross-current that I keep bearing witness to, okay, is driving me completely around the bend. Not literally, but you get the idea. Now, on that note, we're going to bring this to a close. But if you've got any comments, if you've got any questions from any industry, okay, absolutely drop me a line at one of the contact points below this video. Okay, you'll find a whole bunch of different ways of getting a hold of me. If you've got questions, now understand, I am not a scientist, so if you're asking me about technical things, odds are I won't know the technical term. Okay, but will I be honest and tell you I haven't got a clue what you're referring to, but take a look at things this way? I'll be honest with you, that's the easy part. Okay, so, also if you look at the bottom of the video, you'll find all sorts of extra information available that I've been working on. Okay, and we are going to bring this to a close, because like I said, I keep these into a half-hour run for a lot of reasons. Okay, but I will be back tomorrow. So until that time, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.